Welcome back. In this video, let's look at an exercise using the list that we created earlier. What we want to do is we would want to create a student class. What we want to be able to do is we would want to be able to create a student class accepting a name and list of marks. And we would want to be able to perform all these operations which are listed in here on this student class. We would be able to find out how many number of marks are there. We would want to find out this total sum of marks. We would want to determine the maximum mark. We would want to determine the minimum mark. We would want to calculate the average. We would want to add a new mark as well as remove marks at a specific index. So these are all the operations we would want to support, and we would want to create the student class which supports all that operations. You can pause the video in here and try it as an exercise. What I'll do is I'll copy this and get started with the solution. Let's go to PyCharm and let's create our new class again. Control N. I want to create a new Python file and I will call this student. And okay, I'll paste this stuff in and say control slash or command slash to comment this out. So what we want to do is create a class called student, right? So let's minimize this off, control 1, command 1, so that we can use the full screen, and we are ready to get started now. Let's start class student colon. The first thing we want to do is we would want to be able to create a student, right? So this is the code that we would want to be able to do, and we would want to be able to give a student a name, and we'd want to be able to give him a list of marks. So I'll give him 23, 45, 56, 75. So these are his marks in different subjects. Now we need to define a constructor. So let's get started. Def underscore underscore init, press enter so that it autofills. Self is a mandatory thing that we need to definitely have. After that is the name, and after that is the marks. So what I would need to do now is I would need to take the name and marks and put it into the current object. Self.name is equal to name and self.marks is equal to marks. That's cool, isn't it? We have our constructor defined. Now let's go ahead and define our get number of marks method. Let's go ahead. Def, I would want to say get number of marks. And over here, we would want to find out the number of marks inside the student. Where are the number of marks? Inside self.marks. So do you remember a function which helps us to do that? Yep, return length of self.marks. Right? Is that right? Now let's try and print. Let's use formatted thing and let's say student, and over here let's print number. So let's run this and see what the output is. You can see that the number of marks is 4. So you can also say number of marks to be even more clearer. That's cool, right? So we have number of marks as 4. Now you can pause the video in here and try the remaining stuff as an exercise if you have not done the exercise before. Let's continue. We can easily create the other methods as well. So get total sum of marks. This would be sum of marks, right? As simple as that. Determine maximum mark. I want to find the maximum mark of a student. How do I find? Max. Cool, isn't it? Now define minimum mark. I would want to use minimum. The next one is average. Determine average. There is a statistics module in Python which helps us to determine the average, but let's keep things simple and directly use whatever methods we already have in here. So we can say average as get total sum of marks. So I can do self dot get total sum of marks divided by self dot get total number of marks. That's the easiest way to do that, right? The next one we would want to add is add number of marks. How do I add a mark? Think about it. Self, I would need to add a parameter. So I would call this new mark, and How do you add a mark to a list of marks which are present? Self.marks dot self.marks dot append new mark. The last function that we have is remove mark at index 5. This would remove the mark at a specific index. So this is the index. One of the things is the method which we looked at earlier, dot remove, will only remove a specific value. It is not used to remove a value at a specific index. What we'll do to remove a value at a specific index is to say del self.marks at index. This way you need to remove a value. So if I want to remove a value at a specific index, so index is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you want to remove the value at a specific index, then you need to do del self.marks index. One of the things which we are assuming is the index is a valid index. If the index is a invalid index, this would obviously throw an exception. Make sure that you are indenting it right. So there should not be any space before all this stuff. Python is very, very particular about indentation, as you would have experienced until now. So let's uncomment the whole thing. And one of the things is remove mark at index 5 would throw an exception because we have 4 elements and we are adding a new element, so 5 elements. So there will not be an index called 5. So let's add an index called 2 and let's print student dot marks over here, and let's move the print statement a little down and print all the rest of the stuff. So we have number of marks, we'll print max, we'll print min, we'll print average, maximum mark, minimum mark, and average. One of the features that I can make use of is if I want to have the content split, the string content split into multiple lines, I can do triple string. So if you do a triple string, so this is 3 double quotes in a sequence. What it allows us to do is it allows us to split the code into multiple lines. So the string can be split into multiple lines, and the entire content would also be printed the same way. So let's run this program and let's see what would happen. Oops, error. So let's start with the first one. It says return sum of self.marks. The problem is that we are actually shadowing. You can see that the IDE is highlighting this. What we are doing is we are creating a variable with the name sum, which is actually replacing the method sum, and that's not good. So what we'll do is we'll say sum of marks as the name of the variable, and let's print the sum of marks here, sum of marks. So this is something which should always be careful about. There are inbuilt functions that we are making use of, sum in here. So if you have the same variable name as that, then it would replace or it would shadow it. In the right terminology, it's called shadowing. Now let's see what would happen. Cool, isn't it? So now I have all the things being printed in the right way. So number of marks is 4, 199, 75, 23, and 49.75. You can verify that the values are all right, and I'll see you in the next step. Until then, bye-bye.